Okay, let's unpack this. So imagine this scenario. Maybe you've even faced it. Someone you know, maybe an older relative or a friend who's unwell, needs to get some really important legal documents signed.
Right. Things like wills or maybe a power of attorney.
Exactly. Or deeds, trust documents, stuff like that. These aren't just routine papers. They're, crucial for managing their life, their health care, their estate.
And the thing is, these often absolutely have to be notarized. Stamp, signature, the whole deal.
Yeah. But here's the kicker. What if that person, the one needing the notary, physically can't get to a notary's office?
Like if they're stuck in a hospital bed.
Or in a nursing home, or maybe just too sick or frail to leave their house. It's a huge logistical problem, right? It can just stop everything dead in its tracks.
It really can. It's a very real issue. I mean, the need for notarizing a last will or those powers of attorney, property papers, healthcare directives, that need doesn't just vanish because someone can't get around easily. In fact, those are often the times when getting those documents sorted is the most urgent. But the usual way, totally out of reach.
Exactly. And, this is where our source material gets really interesting because it zooms right in on this specific problem.
Yeah, it looks at how you provide these vital notary services for people who are vulnerable, who can't just pop out to an office.
And it talks about a specific solution designed to, bridge that gap.
Right. And the source makes it clear that providing notary services in places like hospitals or nursing homes, it's not just a simple errand.
Oh.
No, it throws up unique challenges for the notary agent, things you just wouldn't face in a typical office setting.
Like what sort of things? What are we talking about?
Well, the source points out that the client is often at their most vulnerable. They could be quite ill, maybe heavily medicated. Sometimes their awareness fluctuates.
Right, that makes sense.
So it takes a lot more time. You need incredible patience, real compassion from the notary. It's not just about the paperwork.
And they're practical things, too.
Oh, definitely. Hurdles around just checking ID, for instance. Think about it. Someone's in a hospital bed, maybe in a gown, possibly hooked up to things. Pulling out and presenting an ID isn't always straightforward.
Yeah, the source mentioned they might not be physically or mentally at their best.
Exactly, and this is crucial. The notary has to be absolutely sure, completely confident that the person signing is cognizant, that they truly understand the document they're signing.
That sounds like a big responsibility.
It is. Assessing that ability, especially when someone's ill or on medication, requires care and judgment that, frankly, goes way beyond what's in a standard notary handbook.
No, it's not just a formality.
Not at all. The source really drives home that notarization in these situations is a complex interaction. It needs specialized skills.
And the documents themselves are often the really heavy-hitting ones, right? Sensitive stuff.
Yes, absolutely. The source lists quite a range, many tied directly to, end-of-life planning or critical financial and healthcare decisions happening right now.
Like the power of attorney and wills we mentioned.
Yes, but also things like quitclaim deeds, maybe for property transfers or estate sales. Healthcare proxies, too. Letters needed for Social Security or pensions.
Wow.
Even sworn statements, affidavits, or documents for things like workers' comp or disability claims. It's striking, isn't it? So many vital life documents become necessary precisely when someone is least able to go out and deal with them traditionally.
So yeah, the usual fix, just go find a notary, completely falls apart here. Which brings us to the idea of a mobile notary service.
Exactly. It's not just a nice-to-have convenience in these cases. It's often essential, bringing the notary right to where the client is.
And our source material, it actually names a specific service doing this.
It does. It details hiremobilenotary.com. They're also known as Mobile Notary Service and seem connected to Neighborhood Parcel, and they're tackling this exact issue in Massachusetts.
How does that work then?
They specialize in sending a licensed Massachusetts notary agent directly to the client's location.
So right into the hospital room or someone's home.
Precisely. The source lists quite a few service areas, showing they cover a good part of Massachusetts. It mentions specific towns where they serve hospitals, places like Andover, Billerica, Burlington, Dracut, Fitchburg, Gardner, Lowell, Lawrence, Methuen, Tewksbury, Wilmington, and Woburn.
Okay, quite a few.
And also general city locations like Boston, Burlington, Cambridge, Chelmsford, Newton, and Waltham. It really underscores their focus on being accessible right where people need them.
And given how urgent these situations can often be, needing papers notarized quickly when someone's health is declining Availability must be super important.
It really is. The source actually highlights that they're fast, reliable, and available 7 days a week.
7 days a week. Wow.
Yeah, and they can even do after-hours appointments. That kind of flexibility is critical because, let's face it, health crises and the legal needs tied to them don't stick to a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 schedule.
That's for sure. Okay, so let's say someone needs this service, maybe for that power of attorney, at a hospital like you mentioned. What does the source say they need to do? What needs to be ready for the notary?
Good question. The material lays out a few key things. First, you need to actually book and confirm the appointment, and payment is handled up front.
Okay.
They also really stress that the documents themselves, they have to be completely ready before the notary shows up.
Prepared by a lawyer, ideally.
Yes, that's the recommendation. And they need to be legible, obviously. The service can handle documents in Arabic, English, or French, which is interesting.
And there was a point about legal advice, right? A really important one.
Absolutely critical. The source is very clear. The notary cannot give legal advice. Their job is specific. Check the ID, witness the signature. That's it.
So you need to talk to your attorney before booking the notary if you have questions about the document itself.
Correct. The notary can't explain what the document means or what its effects are. That boundary is super important, especially when you're dealing with potentially vulnerable signers.
That makes total sense. Anything else needed on the spot?
Yep. 2 more essential things, according to the source. 1, the signer must be cognizant, aware, and understanding what they're signing. The notary actually has to assess this.
Okay.
2, the signer needs a valid photo ID. The notary has to verify who they are. And finally, the signing itself has to happen right there, physically, in front of the notary agent.
Gotcha. All steps to make sure the process is legitimate, even under difficult circumstances.
Exactly. It maintains the integrity of the notarization.
What about the cost? How does that work?
The source explains it has 2 parts. The actual notary fees themselves are set by Massachusetts law. There are standard rates.
Yes, standard fees.
But then on top of that, there's a separate travel fee. This is agreed upon before the appointment, and it's described as reasonable.
And that covers the notary coming out to the location.
Right. It's adjusted based on how far they have to travel and, importantly, how much time the service is expected to take, which reflects that extra care and patience we talked about earlier.
So you're basically paying for that essential convenience, the specialized service of them coming right to the hospital bed or the house.
That's right. And the source adds a bit of background, mentioning they've been doing this in the Boston area for nearly 20 years. So they have experience.
That's quite a track record.
It is. And while they apparently do have a physical office in Tewksbury, 1215 Main Street, the source says if someone could potentially travel there.
Right.
The real value, especially in the situations highlighted by our source, is clearly that mobile service, bringing the notary to you.
So when you pull it all together, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean?
Well, I think it means that services like this one, hiremobilenotary.com, are filling a really significant gap, a critical need.
Yeah.
They're providing access to fundamental legal processes, getting those crucial documents like wills, POAs, deeds notarized for people who are basically cut off from traditional notary services because of age, illness, just being stuck somewhere.
They overcome those huge logistical hurdles and the personal challenges too.
Exactly. Making sure that vital legal and financial things can actually get done, even when circumstances are really tough.
It must offer a huge peace of mind, for the person signing, for their family, just knowing that even when someone's really vulnerable, these critical legal steps can still happen.
Absolutely. Ensuring their wishes about healthcare or finances or their estate can be properly documented and made, legally solid.
Yeah, having the notary come right to you, ready to handle all sorts of different documents.
Yeah.
It must simplify what could otherwise be an incredibly stressful situation.
For everyone involved, yes.
And the source mentioned how to set it up. Booking is pretty straightforward.
Seems so. It says you can book online, mentions a secure checkout platform, or you can just call them directly. The number provided is 978-424-4629.
Okay, good to know. Online or phone. 978-424-4629.
And thinking about it, this service goes beyond just like stamping paper. It's more than just the mechanics of getting a signature and a seal.
How do you mean?
Well, consider the wider impact. When you make sure that vulnerable individuals can execute legal documents, things like wills or powers of attorney, right when they might need them most, what does that do? How does it affect their feeling of control, their autonomy?
Interesting point.
And what about the ability of their loved ones to legally act on their behalf when needed? This accessibility. it's not just about convenience. You could argue it actually helps uphold a person's dignity and their legal rights during some incredibly challenging times.
That's a powerful thought to end on. It's not just notarizing paper. It's enabling agency and rights when they matter most.